truly loses only at the moment when he himself declares, "I am defeated." Before surrendering, one must always remember that as long as we are alive, life grants us another chance to rise again and achieve success. Every new day carries within it a hidden opportunity, and the only essential ingredient to reach it is belief in oneself. The faith that I can do it. Around us, there are countless examples of people who were once considered failures, but later became symbols of success. Their journey was not built upon luck or shortcuts, but upon patience, faith, and relentless hard work. Sometimes when we see people succeeding, we're quick to say, "How did it happen so fast?" But the truth is that behind every apparent overnight success lies years of sacrifice, sleepless nights, and silent battles fought in the dark. Success always asks for a price: comfort, ease, and often peace of mind. Scientists today confirm something that ancient wisdom hinted at long ago. The human brain has an extraordinary ability to adapt, reshape, and reinvent itself. This phenomenon is known as neuroplasticity. For centuries, people believed that the brain was fixed after childhood, that once a person grew into adulthood, his brain could no longer change significantly. But modern neuroscience shattered this myth. Research has proven that the brain is not a rigid structure. It is a living, dynamic network of billions of neurons capable of forming new pathways, new connections, and even compensating for lost functions. This discovery is not just a scientific detail, it is a message of hope, a reminder that no matter how many times life knocks us down, as long as we are alive, our brain gives us the chance to rebuild and rise again. Think of the brain like a vast landscape filled with pathways. Every thought we think, every action we repeat, every habit we form is like walking on a particular path. The more we walk on it, the clearer and stronger that path becomes. This is why habits are powerful. They are simply well-traveled neural routes in the brain. Now imagine a person who, after failing, constantly tells himself, "I cannot do this, I am not capable." Each time he repeats this thought, he strengthens the neural pathway of defeat. But on the other hand, if he tells himself, "I will try again, I will learn, I will rise," he begins to create a new path, and the more he uses it, the stronger it becomes. This is neuroplasticity in action. The brain physically rewiring itself in response to our mindset and efforts. Stories of this adaptability are found everywhere in science and life. A stroke patient who loses the ability to speak can, through therapy and practice, regain language by training different parts of the brain to take over the lost function. A musician trains his fingers to move effortlessly over strings, and with every practice session, his brain strengthens the pathways of musical memory. A child who once struggled with reading can, with persistence, develop fluency because the brain creates stronger connections in regions responsible for language. These examples highlight a truth that is often overlooked. This adaptability also explains why people who dedicate months of intense focus to a single goal often achieve remarkable results. When you isolate yourself from distractions, when you stop wasting time in meaningless gatherings, and instead pour your energy into your purpose for 6 months, your brain begins to reshape itself entirely around that goal. Neural connections grow thicker, faster, and stronger. What was once difficult becomes natural. What was once unfamiliar becomes automatic. Science calls it long-term potentiation. But in simple words, it means practice and persistence literally rewire your brain. When people say, "I can't change," they are not stating a fact. They are expressing a belief that is holding them hostage. Neuroscience tells us that change is always possible because the brain is designed to evolve. Whether you are 20 or 70, your brain is capable of growing new connections. The only condition is effort, repetition, and consistency. The brain listens to what you repeatedly tell it, and it responds by becoming what you train it to be. That is why the simple act of refusing to surrender is so powerful. By not giving up, you force your brain to keep searching, to keep rewiring, to keep adapting until it finds the solution. Consider Thomas Edison, who failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. Each failure was not wasted because each attempt trained his brain to think differently, to form new hypotheses, and to push the boundaries of what was possible. He once said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." In truth, what he found was 10,000 opportunities for his brain to reshape its pathways until it arrived at success. Albert Einstein, once dismissed as an ordinary student, reshaped the way humanity views the universe through persistent thinking that trained his brain to connect ideas no one else could see. These men did not surrender, and because they did, but this power is not only for geniuses, it belongs to every human being. Neuroplasticity is democratic. It works for the rich and poor, young and old, educated and uneducated. It is the universal gift of being human. The only requirement is persistence. If you decide to dedicate even 6 months of your life, focusing every day, giving 18 hours to your work and only the essential time to eating and resting, you will witness transformation. At first, it may feel impossible, but slowly your brain begins to adapt. Tasks that seemed overwhelming become manageable. Ideas that once felt complex become simple, and goals that look distant come closer. In 6 months, you can literally rewire your brain into a success machine. This is why surrender is the real defeat. External failures are not the end. They are merely lessons for your brain to learn from. Every setback is a stimulus for your neurons to grow. Every challenge a chance for your mind to create a new path. The brain thrives on effort, on challenge, on persistence. Neuroscientists say neurons that fire together wire together. Every time you try again after failing, you are wiring your brain for resilience. Every time you persist when others quit, you are building a brain that refuses to accept defeat. So never surrender. Never tell yourself it is over. As long as there is life, there is chance. And as long as you have a brain, you have the ability to adapt, to change, to reinvent yourself. Remember that science itself stands behind you, declaring that your potential is never fixed, that your limits are not final, that your failures are not permanent. The question is not whether you can rise again. The question is whether you will choose to rise. Persistence is one of the most underestimated forces in human life, yet scientists and psychologists have observed again and again that it is often persistence, more than raw intelligence or natural talent, that separates success from failure. Human history is filled with examples of individuals who did not stand out for their brilliance, but for their determination to continue moving forward when everything around them seemed to demand surrender. It's simple, but profound quality has been studied in laboratories, in schools, in athletic training grounds, and in the stories of entrepreneurs. And the conclusion remains the same. Persistence shapes outcomes in a way that other traits cannot. It is persistence that allows the brain to strengthen pathways, to reinforce memory, to turn effort into habit, and habit into mastery. Psychologists often speak about grit, which is essentially long-term persistence combined with passion for a particular goal. Angela Duckworth, a psychologist who has studied grit extensively, found that students who demonstrated higher levels of persistence were more likely to succeed in demanding environments like West Point Military Academy than those who scored higher in raw intelligence tests. This finding alone challenges the assumption that talent is the greatest predictor of success. In fact, talent without persistence often burns out, while persistence without extraordinary talent eventually carves a path to achievement. The brain plays a central role in persistence. Each time a person repeats an action, even if it results in temporary failure, the neurons responsible for that action strengthen their connections. This strengthening is what neuroscientists call long-term potentiation, and it is the biological basis of learning. For example, when a pianist practices the same piece over and over, he may make mistakes at first, but persistence allows the brain to refine the motor skills. the timing and the coordination until eventually the music flows effortlessly. If he gave up after the first mistakes, his brain would never get the chance to form the deep neural pathways needed for mastery. The same principle applies to athletes, writers, scientists, or anyone chasing a goal. Persistence gives the brain the opportunity to ingrain success into its very structure. What persistence does on a psychological level is equally powerful. It reshapes a person's relationship with failure. To someone without persistence, failure is a sign to stop. To someone persistent, failure is feedback, a signal that there is something to be learned, an invitation to try again differently. This mindset transforms failure from an enemy into a teacher. Thomas Edison is perhaps the most famous example of this, claiming that he had not failed but merely found thousands of ways that would not work before he discovered the one that did. His persistence trained his mind to interpret every obstacle as progress rather than as a dead end. And science supports this interpretation. Studies on problem solving show that those who persist longer are more likely to find creative solutions because their brains remain active and engaged, exploring alternatives when others have already disengaged. Persistence is also tied closely to delayed gratification, the ability to sacrifice immediate comfort for long-term gain. The famous marshmallow test, conducted by psychologist Walter Mischel, demonstrated that children who were able to resist the temptation of eating one marshmallow immediately in order to receive two later were more successful later in life across various measures like academic performance and career success. This experiment highlights the role persistence plays in real life. Resisting the urge to quit when success is not immediate, holding on to effort when results are delayed, and trusting that long-term focus pays off. Scientists studying brain imaging have also discovered that persistence changes the way the brain's reward system functions. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter often associated with pleasure and motivation, is not only released when we achieve a goal, but also when we make progress toward it. Persistent individuals learn to find satisfaction in the process of working toward success, rather than only in the final outcome. This makes them less likely to give up, because every small step feels meaningful. Their brains, through repeated practice, associate persistence with reward, creating a self-sustaining cycle where effort itself becomes satisfying. If we look at education, the role of persistence becomes even clearer. Students who consistently practice, revise, and push themselves despite setbacks often outperform those who appear naturally gifted but lack perseverance. A student who struggles with mathematics but refuses to give up eventually builds stronger problem-solving skills than one who understands concepts quickly but quits when faced with difficulty. Teachers who observe classrooms for years notice this pattern. Persistence outlasts brilliance. It is not the child who solves the problem fastest who always wins in the long run, but the one who keeps solving problems even after making mistakes. The same applies to physical training. Muscles grow through resistance, through the persistence of lifting weights repeatedly, tearing fibers and allowing them to rebuild stronger. If someone quits after the first pain or fatigue, growth never comes. Similarly, persistence in mental and emotional challenges strengthens resilience. People who face hardships and keep moving forward develop what psychologists call stress inoculation, the ability to handle future stress more effectively. Their persistence literally rewires their nervous system to respond with strength instead of collapse. Another fascinating observation about persistence is its connection to creativity. While many think creativity is an instant spark of inspiration, in reality, it is often the product of persistent effort. Writers who draft dozens of pages only to keep a few sentences. Artists who paint and repaint until they capture the right shade. Scientists who repeat experiments hundreds of times before reaching a breakthrough. All demonstrate that creativity thrives in the soil of persistence. Studies show that when people persist in working on a problem, even after reaching frustration, their brains continue to process it subconsciously, often leading to sudden insights later. Without persistence, these insights would never surface. In business and entrepreneurship, persistence is often the dividing line between those who succeed and those who fade away. Startups rarely achieve success instantly. Most go through phases of rejection, financial strain, and self-doubt. The entrepreneurs who succeed are rarely the smartest in the room. They're the ones who persist through repeated rejections, who adapt their strategies, but never abandon their vision. Science, again, supports this through the concept of survivorship bias. We only see the successful companies today, but behind each is a trail of persistence through failures we rarely hear about. It is also important to recognize that persistence does not mean repeating the same mistake endlessly. True persistence involves adapting strategies while maintaining the same commitment to the goal. Scientists who experiment do not repeat identical trials without learning. They adjust conditions, refine hypotheses, and persist in searching for solutions. This flexible persistence is what leads to progress. The brain, through neuroplasticity, rewards such persistence by strengthening connections, not just for actions, but for problem-solving approaches, making the person more skilled at tackling future challenges. From a motivational perspective, persistence is the bridge between dreams and reality. Everyone dreams, but only those who persist turn visions into achievements. This bridge is built one step at a time, often in solitude, often without recognition, and often with sacrifice. People admire the result, but rarely see the years of persistence behind them. Scientists studying high achievers find that their daily routines, their discipline, and their refusal to give up when no one is watching are what eventually bring them into the spotlight. The role of persistence is also spiritual in a way. It instills faith that tomorrow can be better than today, that effort is never wasted, that every step taken with determination contributes to a larger journey. Even when results are invisible, persistence teaches patience, humility, and trust in the process. This is why so many great leaders emphasize persistence as the heart of success. Winston Churchill once said, "Success is the ability to go from one failure to another with no loss of enthusiasm." Science and experience both affirm the truth of this statement. Persistence may not shine like talent. It may not inspire awe like genius, but it is the quiet force that bends destiny. It is persistence that keeps the scientist in the lab after midnight, the athlete on the track long after the crowd is gone, the student at the desk when others are asleep. And slowly, through repetition and resilience, persistence builds greatness where once there was only struggle. In the end, remember this truth: you only lose when you choose to give up. Life, science, and even your own brain remind you every day that there is always another chance, another opportunity, another path waiting to be created. Persistence, patience, and belief in yourself are not just motivational words. They are scientific realities, deeply wired into your nature. The human brain is designed to adapt, and persistence is the force that unlocks that adaptation. Together they prove that as long as you are alive, nothing is final, no failure is permanent, and no dream is beyond your reach. So never surrender. Trust the process, trust the power within you, and take every step with courage. Your effort today may not bring immediate results, but it is reshaping your mind, your future, and your destiny. If you give your focus, your dedication, and your persistence, success will not only meet you. I wish you the strength to keep moving forward no matter the obstacles, the patience to wait for the right time, and the wisdom to never let go of your dreams. Good luck on your journey, and thank you for giving me the honor to share these words with you today.